heard a really great quote recently on Instagram that said, the only natural talent that all artists have is the desire to create, and then they learn how to do their art. So I have a friend who does wood and epoxy and just really beautiful stuff. And he calls me one day, it was in 2019, and he says, I signed us up for a couple of craft fairs. Okay. He says, no, he didn't ask me. He just did it. And I said, well, I can't. He says, well, I already paid for the table. And so the first show, as I was packing my little candles, because I used to do candles. I don't do those anymore. I don't have the patience. He calls me up. So I pack all this stuff up. And I'm driving to this craft fair. And I'm thinking to myself, if I don't sell anything, then that's the universe telling me that this is only a hobby. This is supposed to be a hobby, and I'll be fine with that. People like getting this stuff for holiday gifts. It's great. And I sold almost everything. So then he says, let's do another one. I've signed us up. And the same thing, packed up, talked myself out of it, and again, I sold everything. The third time, I didn't sell everything, but I sold enough to realize that maybe I should do this as a business. And then when the pandemic hit, I made a post on my neighborhood Facebook group asking what people were doing to keep from going stir crazy. And the owner of a boutique called the Salty Teacup reached out to me and said, I'd love you to bring in some of your stuff. And Tabby Von Bath & Body, the company, was started. I have a consistent lineup of soaps that I will always sell on my website. So I look at those first and I decide which one I'm going to do. And a couple days ahead of time, I'll mix up the lye solution. I wait until it goes through the saponification and it's firm enough that I can take it out of the mold. And then I do the cutting, and then I wait another 24 hours because it's soft. And then I wait another 24 hours so I can bevel the edges and stamp it. And then it sits in the rack for 6 to 8 weeks, depending again on what oils and butters were in there. Probably the reason I don't really veer off and experiment a lot is I have a condition called aphantasia where I don't have a mind's eye. So I can't envision how something will turn out. So I photograph everything I do and I make meticulous notes when I'm creating a new product. So I know exactly what I did last time, because if I don't, it's just not gonna happen. So I have one soap that is, it's named Till the Wheels Fall Off. And it's an orange and black soap that was actually named that because my husband years ago said to me, I want you to ride on the back of my bike until the wheels fall off. And I said, I don't know what that means. And he said, I want you to ride on the back of my bike until the wheels fall off. And I said, yeah, I don't know what that means. And he said a third time, and I said, you can keep saying it, and I have no clue what you're asking. And he said to me, I want you to marry me. And I said, I cannot marry you. He said, well, why not? And I said, because on our first date, you told me that you told your friend, Big Carl, because there's always a Big Carl, that you were never to ask another woman to marry you, and if you did, he was to put the boots to you. And he said to me, Big Carl's dead. And I said, other people heard. And then he pulled out a ring, and I said, okay. think I'm ever going to become a multimillionaire with my soap making, but I know people like my soap. I know they do. I wouldn't have people coming back and buying my soap if they didn't like it. I know I put out a quality product, and no qualms about what I charge because I'm actually quite reasonable, and your skin's gonna feel so much better.